They say there's no good news.
There's no good news.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the No Good Podcast, where today we will be talking about small independent media versus big government. And this time, it comes out in our favor. So, let's get to it. So, like a story that should be published on foolish.gov, the city of Fullerton sued two bloggers and ended up paying $350,000 to settle the case. Wrap your brains around that one. You file a lawsuit against somebody and you end up paying $350,000.
What you've done, you fool!
So here's what happened. The city of Fullerton accused Joshua Ferguson and David Curley, who have a website called Friends of Fullerton's Future. The city accused them of stealing digital personnel files. So basically what happened was these bloggers made requests for certain documents. The city gave them access to Dropbox folders, but not only the Dropbox folders with the information that they asked for. They apparently had access to a range of Dropbox folders, and none of them required unique passwords. So later, some of the information was published online, including a story that once again surrounded the police and some official in the police department who was allowed to resign on some shady terms. The bloggers posted that story. The city proceeded to sue. So throughout the case, the bloggers maintained the position that the city had no proof that they directly accessed any confidential files. And they were never charged with any type of criminal offenses. So now, after accusing these people of being thieves and cyber criminals, with no way to back those claims up apparently, the city has to pay $350,000, including $60,000 apiece for the bloggers, plus $230,000 for their lawyer. And then you're going to have the legal costs on the other side. So according to the Friends of Fullerton website, the bill for this is approaching $500,000.
What you've done, you fool!
Even though you would think on the opposite side that it must have been an in-office legal strategy, because who is the city attorney? Who advised city council on this strategy? Nearly $500,000 invested in nonsense, and the city has to issue a public apology online. So in that public apology, this is what Fullerton had to say about suing someone for a Dropbox fiasco that the city created. This is what they said. Initially, city staff were placing folders and files on cityoffullerton.com outbox, a shortcut to a shared file account, because they believed the folders were secured and with restricted access. However, due to errors by former employees of the city in configuring the account and lax password controls, some of the files and folders were in fact accessible and able to be downloaded and or accessed without circumventing access controls. So far as you can see, nothing here has been done by anybody but the city. Next, the statement goes on to explain, based on the city's additional investigation and through discussions with Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Curley, the city now agrees that documents were not stolen or taken illegally from the shared file account, as the city previously believed and asserted. The city retracts any and all assertions that Friends for Fullerton's Future, Mr. Ferguson, and or Mr. Curley acted illegally in accessing the documents. Well, isn't it a fine time for the city to come out with all of that? But anyway, their statement goes on to say, the city has worked to protect the confidentiality of non-public documents while assuring robust public access to public records. While our attempts to secure the documents after their unintentional release was well-meaning, it had consequences for Mr. Curley and Mr. Ferguson that we did not intend. The city regrets this misunderstanding. I'm sure the city does regret it now that they're paying out $350,000. And here's the thing. As part of the settlement, the bloggers are supposed to delete and or return some of the files. But they don't even have to remove the information for the story that they publish about the shady police resignation, which was basically the primary thing that they were after in the first place. This is a story that makes government look incompetent and like a straight out jackass. Following the settlement, on the blogger's website, a post says, after a year and a half of lies, defamation, obstruction, incompetence, buffoonery, temporizing, more lying, and running up huge legal bills, the city has given up. The losers, once again, says the article, are the taxpayers of Fullerton. I mean, honestly, if this is the crew, these are the folks that are in charge of the city's money, it's not like anybody should have confidence that otherwise they would be like savvy managers of money. I mean, these do not sound like people who know what they are doing. In addition, the post says, well, friends, you can add as well as I can, at least $750,000 to pursue this harebrained retaliation against bloggers whose only desire was to get information from their own city government. This is reminiscent of another story on nogoodwords.com about a website called the Alaska Landmine, which filed a lawsuit against Alaska's governor to get access to press conferences. And at the end of the day, Governor Mike Dunleavy's office agreed to pay $65,000 for the website's legal fees for doing something as silly as creating a barrier to public information. Look at the cost. These governments, these police departments act like they don't realize that small media, independent media will fight back. Small media, independent media, they do have people on their side. In this case with Fullerton, the ACLU, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, and the Electronic Frontier Foundation all filed amicus briefs in support of the bloggers. So it is time for government and public officials to realize that small media, independent media, freelance journalists, not only will we be playing a larger role going forward in informing the public of what is going on, but we're not some hillbillies out of the sticks who don't know how to read and who don't know how to write and who are going to be pushed around and knocked around and not pursue our rights and not pursue the mission. So the same respect, the same recognition, the same cooperation that they give major media outlets, that they give staff journalists at these big name publications, they better start learning to spread it around because nobody has time to play these games. It is 2021. We're out here. We're going to be out here. And that's just what it is. So you act foolish, you pay, which will be much appreciated because we can use the funding. Do not worry. This is not one and done. The next case we have is Kian Kelly-Chung and his lawsuit against DC Metro Police, stemming from an incident while he was covering Black Lives Matter protests last summer. To get into that, please go to the description box and click the Anchor FM link. There's nothing to download. You can jump in right where you left off. And once you finish the episode, please don't forget to look out for the Where to Listen list so that you can subscribe on your favorite platform, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or you can also go to Amazon Music and subscribe to the No Good Podcast. See you on Anchor.